The situation in Syria after the liberation of Aleppo is moving in a direction that could promise an end to the war in a future not too far away. And the dynamics of international diplomacy are changing in the same direction. The foreign ministers of Russia, Iran and Turkey met in Moscow to discuss the road ahead in Syria. An important party that was not invited was the United States. And this is already seen by the world as a serious blow to the interference of the US and some of its Arab allies in the Syrian crisis.
We have the conviction that the proactive action of these three countries would help overcome the stalemate in efforts to resolve the Syrian crisis. The move is aimed at initiating the process in terms of ending the violence, delivering humanitarian aid, as well as creating conditions for an inclusive political process in Syria.
As you know, the Syrian people are in a critical situation. It's necessary the humanitarian aid reach to the entire population and not a specific area. We're pleased that the efforts over the last few days made it possible to evacuate civilians from Foua and Kafaria, as well as terrorists from Aleppo. That was achieved with the cooperation and coordination of Iran, Russia and Turkey.
But the fact of the matter is that the U.S. went in there with its own agenda, which was to promote so-called liberal moderate opposition to President Assad. And that has really been sucked into to the whole ISIL operation. It's not an independent operation, and money that went into it has really gone to help fund terrorism. So it was a no-win situation in terms of defeating ISIL. The Russians, by their own independent moves, had turned the situation around, making a strategic decision on this, which has led now to a relative stabilization of the Syrian situation.
The success of the alliance between Russia, Iran and Syria to liberate Aleppo is already showing its impact on Moscow's ties with Washington. Russian officials on Wednesday said almost all communication channels with Washington had been frozen. This was denied by US officials. Nonetheless, it was a serious sign showing how relations between the two countries had already deteriorated.
If there is no channel between Russia and the United States, then they certainly can't cooperate in dealing with the problems of the Middle East. The issues of the Middle East can only be resolved through collaboration of A, the parties in the region, and that means all the parties in the region, and B, through cooperation from the international forces that are interested in resolving this crisis peacefully.
More serious signs showing how relations between the two had deteriorated appeared later when Russian President Vladimir Putin called for the country to reinforce its military nuclear potential. This drew an immediate response from US President-elect Donald Trump, who made a similar appeal by calling for greater American nuclear capabilities. And with that, concerns are already rising that the two old rivals are set to begin a new era of arms race. Turkey has been trying to move closer to Russia. The US may not be happy about this, particularly given that it could eventually put NATO's second largest military in Russia's camp. Many are now speculating that this, together with America's setbacks in Syria, show how Washington's presumed powers in international diplomacy have already weakened. It appears that the incoming US president will have a lot on his plate once he takes office. Things will be specifically difficult for him if he wants to avoid a real crisis with Russia and at the same time keep America's allies as well as domestic camps happy. The roots of this, of course, should be sought in conflict zones like Syria and elsewhere.